From stateside, from Las Vegas, the land, well, once upon a time, the land of gambling, but now just for those wanting to retire and take it easy in the beautiful sunshine at 300 degrees Celsius. Kirk Clyatt, nice to see you once again.
Yeah, it's kind of cool today. It's only about 39. We've got a nice ridge in the jet stream here in the west, so we're staying warm. The pool pump still going for another couple of days. I don't know, though. Here we are, less than 5 weeks away from the election, and you can't be anything kind of but freaked out about what's going on. I never in my wildest dreams imagined me as any kind of survivalist. But with the president not condemning white supremacy, you got all those proud boys with their genitalia that's maybe that long. These are just pathetic.
Well, I've never looked at the genitalia. I have no intention, by the way.
You know, believe me, as a gay man, I would go sexless forever rather than touch one of those people. They are truly disgusting.
Look, but
honestly,
it was, though, you must admit, it was compelling in one way, and it truly was. It was a farce, and I maybe ESPN could be could carry the next one, call it World Championship Wrestling, Washington style.
I really was hoping that Trump would go after him and Biden would just deck him right there on the stage, because I think that could happen. And you got to look at these people. The reason that these Proud Boys and all these young-ish white males support Trump is they feel that they have been victimized throughout the society. That's why they're incels, which I believe white male incels that's involuntarily celibate are truly the most dangerous, like that punk Kyle in Wisconsin and Kenosha that killed the two people. That's just the type of person I'm talking about. This gives them a feeling of power, a feeling of belonging with their group, and that, yes, maybe someone would want to have sex with them. I don't know. Just speculation.
But that's another poll we'll take. We'll do that poll. But you'd say that Telemundo for the Spanish-speaking people of the US, 66 said he won, 34% said he lost. That's must be of concern to Joe.
You have a situation with the Hispanics that have been in the U.S. for so long. They have somewhat of a diverse community. But I can tell you in our neighborhood here in the West, maybe some of the Cubans, they're a very conservative, generally group. They might be supporting Trump, but the vast majority here in the West are certainly supporting Biden. And as I was mentioning, I never viewed myself as a survivalist. I mean, come on. This is the United States of America, which I think most people right now would agree as far as westernized nations. Now, certainly not all, but as far as first world westernized nations, we are simply the worst place to be in a westernized nation. And yeah, after watching that debate and seeing this psychotic man who Biden went out and told him, you are the worst president in the history of the United States, told him to shut up, man, which I think most people would want. But yet Trump telling them to stand down and stand back to these Proud Boy punks. Did they not look pathetic? Did they not know how pathetic they look in their camo fatigues, dragging around their long arms? And that's almost gorilla long arms, or the firearms that they carry. But yes, I was just cleaning up, repositioning some of the supplies. We have an entire closet filled with water just in case. New York Times today with a large article about how more and more people are giving the reality that was just kind of a vague hypothesis in the background years ago, or giving the reality of leaving the United States real consideration. And Tom Friedman, another New York Times columnist I was just reading before the report here today, he is saying now that this moment in time for the United States, now I always equated it to not quite as bad as the Civil War. He's gotten to the point saying this is more dangerous than the Civil War. And, after thinking about that for an hour or so, I think that we've got a situation where, you could freak out if Trump wins, or you could just, people of our age, I'm 61 years old. How did that happen?
Well, I would love to tell you, but we'd probably get taken off the air. So I'll tell you later on how that happened.
Okay,
but a glass of wine was included, let me tell you.
That's great. But, I'm thinking, I'm just giving up because it's over for the United States. The American experiment is over if Trump wins again. And I think you could extrapolate that out and say, really, the global experiment is over because America will be no help at all on climate change. I mean, just locally, you look at what's going on. We have seen these amazing skies with the fires in California, with just the smoke that has drifted over. Amazing heat, as we mentioned. We just kind of joke about how hot it is. But right now, we are second for the number of 100-degree days all time. We've got some heat coming up this weekend, so there's a chance we could break that record. I think we've had 97, and the record is 100 days in a year with a high of at least 100 Fahrenheit, which is roughly 39 Celsius. So we are being prepared because, I can't get out of the country right away. And you mentioned Telemundo. I'm starting to watch Telemundo a lot, actually, because while my Spanish is not good enough to get completely the flow of the conversation, at least I pick up words and getting a vague idea of what they're talking about, because I really believe the South is the way to go down into Mexico and potentially even Central America. But in the meantime, yes, we've got poultry in the backyard. Got our Latina pellets to get the eggs. We have 20 pounds of butter in the freezer. I bought a freezer over the weekend. Who would have thought? Never. But that is how bad it is, and it's getting worse by the week. This is a lunatic, truly an insane man as president of the United States. And one of the things that Tom Feldman was putting out in his New York Times op-ed piece is that the election's going to go one of two ways. Trump's either going to win or he's going to say it was a corrupt vote. And that was, of course, what he was doing last week. So I think there's no way that there is going to be a peaceful resolution to this. The question is just how many is going to get killed, because you have a man who is basically inciting violence as the president of the United States. I question whether it was as dangerous as the Civil War, but as each day goes forward, I'm thinking that is a real possibility. America and the future of America, and you could transfer that out, the future of the world, is at stake over the next couple of months. Now, you may say that sounds like bizarre, incredible hyperbole, but from where I sit now with my closet full of water, my 20 pounds of butter in the freezer, my hundreds of pounds of poultry food, my gallons of egg products.
And cocktails. And cocktails, too. And never get the cocktails.
We still have leftover liquor from the casinos. Now they don't give it away. In fact, it's just not comfortable for me to spend long periods of time in the casinos, as I had somehow living here in Las Vegas been prone to do, because it really looks like some kind of scene from a Stephen King movie with all the plastic shields up at the table games, especially like, Pai Gow poker, blackjack, those kind of games, poker, regular poker. Some of the poker rooms are open. It's just macabre. It's just a macabre experience. So used to get lots of giveaway booze. Yeah, still have some of that. But as we've discussed before, marijuana is the way to go rather than booze, because you can actually function the next day. But that's for them.
Look, Kirk, you mentioned before the New York Times. Some call it the New York toilet paper Times. No. But I would never say that. I would never say that. But the media has been, especially the New York Times, has been fixated on Trump's tax returns. Now, is anyone questioning the lack of documentation, or is it just a good story at the right time?
That's interesting, because they can say that. The Trump supporters could say, where are the documents? Well,
but where are the documents?
The feedback to that is, Donald Trump, you're president of the United States, as Joe Biden said at the debate, show us the returns. He's not questioning any of the validity of what the New York Times has. He's just questioning the veracity of how it happened. And you look at that and you say, oh my gosh, but don't all wealthy people manipulate the tax code with extremely articulate and extremely experienced accountants? Well, yes, but Joe Biden, even though he has, book publishing rights and I'm sure subsidiary corporations, he paid 400 times the amount of tax of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's $750. And you say, well, sure, but don't other millionaires, and as Donald likes to say, billionaires, pay taxes? They do, and they pay tens of millions of dollars, not tens of dollars, or in the case of 10 years since 2000, $0. This is a man who's bleeding money with his companies and businesses. And as the New York Times pointed out, you have a situation of a man who obviously plays a billionaire on television much better than is actually a billionaire. And most of the projects that he had a lot of personal involvement with, those were a lot of the projects that went downhill the fastest.
Interesting. We had a comment from one of our regulars, Blake Christian, who focuses on tax. Sure. And Blake was saying that he was surprised he even paid that much. However, media has not focused on Biden or his wife, and they've legally have been avoiding payroll taxes on their income. So how come Mr. Biden claimed to protect Medicare and Obamacare when he avoided more than $500,000 in taxes that fund the two programs? Now, in a recent Wall Street Journal article, according to Biden's tax returns in 2017 and 2018, the Bidens avoided payroll taxes on nearly $13.3 million in income from book royalties and speaking fees. And they did this by classifying the income as S corporation profits rather than taxable wages. So why are we focusing on one, the Donald, and two, not the Joe? Because what's the difference at the end of the day?
Well, not that you'd ever pay me for doing any of these, Mike, but I do occasionally file a Schedule C, which is profits that you make from other businesses. There are all kinds of different schedules that are out there. An S corporation, I'm not nearly big enough for that, and I would defer to an accountant for more information on this. But I think a key factor here is that Biden and his wife paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax. They completely released their tax forms, as did Senator Harris, the running mate. And so they are totally transparent. They are totally disclosing all of their information, where Donald Trump is still trying to keep it hidden, although it is out there. And a couple of little weak Republican voices from back in the corner, Senator Braun from Indiana says, well, I guess Trump will have to answer for this. They are the most weak, mealy-mouthed, cowardly politicians I have ever seen in my life. It's not just Trump. It is his enablers, slime, like Lindsey Graham, who said we get what we deserve if Trump gets the nomination back in 2016. And boy, have we ever. Who is now begging for money. Oh, they're killing me financially, with Jamie Harrison running against him as the Democratic nominee. And those polls are neck and neck in South Carolina. There are chances for this to be a titanic wipeout for the Republicans, a true blue wave if they lose the Senate seat in South Carolina, maybe Texas, even a slight chance in, of all places, Mississippi, if the Democrats can hold on to the seat in Alabama. This is the most important. I think the argument could be made that the 2016 election was the most important of our lifetime, because look at the judges, look at the Supreme Court situation. But if this election goes for Donald Trump, if he is still in the White House on January 25th, a couple of days after the inauguration next year, it's all over for the United States and potentially for the world.
And you become a Mexican or South American resident, and hopefully legally, which we can talk about another time. But I have to ask you, though, because I hear some barking in the background. I wasn't sure if the vice presidential debate had started. Obviously not, because there's only one dog barking at the moment. But when does it actually happen? When do we see the vice? Because you're excited about this. You're excited that Pence versus Kamala. It's going to be a very entertaining and probably, and hopefully, we all agree, hopefully, a lot less boisterous.
Well, they might take turns talking. I'm not 100% sure. But this takes place in Salt Lake City. Susan Page, who is a correspondent with USA Today, is going to be the moderator. It's at the, I believe, University of Utah. Let me put on my old man glasses. At least they're purple.
But they're good for 61, but you need them thicker. As you get older, the glasses get thicker, right. Kirk.
Yeah, the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. So that will be fascinating to see what happens. And then, of course, we have the next presidential one, which is going to be a town hall. Steve Scully, who is the senior executive producer and political editor for C-SPAN. That is going to be in Miami on Thursday, the 15th. So that is going to be a real throwdown with people in the audience asking questions. But you got to remember, the voting is underway. Over 1 million Americans have already cast their ballots. And I'm going to be one of the first in line on October the 17th when early voting opens here in Nevada. Actually, next week, if we can pull off one of these next week, might be with you from Philadelphia. Because let's face it, here in the U.S., we've given up. We've given up on really any effort to contain COVID. Because I was in the camp of stay home, don't do anything. Yesterday, I got a COVID test. I'm negative. So Trump says, go fly. So I'm going to go see my kids. Hopefully not the last time ever if the nation goes completely to hell. But my daughter's a resident MD, and she's coming up near the end of time for her residency. So it'll be interesting to see what the attitude and the feeling is there. And honestly, states like Pennsylvania and New York, with some clusters in New York, especially in the Orthodox Jewish communities in some areas in New York City and some of the surrounding counties, they have seen, as the governor there, Cuomo says, some embers reignite. But Pennsylvania, with Governor Tom Wolf, has done a really good job compared to the most of the rest of the nation. So hopefully everything will be okay, but it'll be an interesting perspective to see things on the East Coast because I just simply don't get back there that much, and certainly not this year. So
wonderful chatting again. Don't forget, when you move to Mexico, get a worm farm, because when you drink your tequila, you just pluck out a worm from your worm farm, and there you go. It's, you got fresh meat, you got the tequila. You made it. You're living the dream.
About 15 years ago, I went to Michoacan before all the drug war broke out. And now that's one of the key states that they have the drug war in. But the language school I went there in Pátzcuaro,
which is just
an amazing city. I wouldn't even call it a city, maybe a large town. But I mean, the architecture there dates back to the 16th century. And we consider something 16 months old, at least pre-pandemic in Las Vegas. That's old. It's been there a year. I mean, just to see this way pre-American Revolution architecture and community and the history of Mexico, it is truly an amazing place that gets a bad rap. So I was actually thinking of going back down there to fly to Morelia, because right now, just to show you how psychotic things are here in North America, you can fly to Mexico, no problem. Drive to Mexico, no way. And the Canadians, they just say, oh, Canada, oh, no, you're not coming in. That could be for a long, long time.
Look, I'm just getting a message from my producer. We had a call. Someone from Juarez said, you're very welcome there. They've got some, what was that? Cheap rates and something about a mule. I have no idea what they mean anyway. So Juarez. There you are.
I think I'll pass on Juarez, but it is a city that is very, very important to the United States. That's for sure, along the Texas-Mexican border.
Kirk Clyatt, a.k.a. Pancho. Pancho. It's like Kamala. Good luck in Mexico. Good luck in Philadelphia. And we'll talk to you next week.
Cheers.